Deryn Lang heads it forward. Is it going to go drop to Ryan Edgar?
Yeah.
Here he goes.
It's a goal!
Ryan Edgar!
Just sort of seen the ball come up and they challenged against the centre half. I've won it, and then I think he's got back in and I've beaten him. And then I've just hit my shot low and hard, and thankfully seen it hit the back of the net, and you can tell in my celebration how much it means to me. And if you think back this time, maybe last year against Steve as well, it means so much to me scoring for my home club.
We just heard there from Ryan Edgar after his goal against Clydebank. That's just one game that we'll be looking back on tonight on Look Blues Talking. We'll look back at the 3-2 win over Stirling Albion. We'll look back at the 4-1 win at East Kilbride before turning our attention to Saturday's long trip to Elgin City. Fittingly, as we approach Christmas, I am joined by three wise men tonight, and Lawrence Nelson, Brian Martin and George Frank. Lawrence.
I'm just looking for them, Cameron.
Cast your mind all the way back to November 29th and the win over Clydebank. Maybe not the best performance, but at the end of the day, cup game, all important thing is being through to the next round.
You know what, Cameron, there was a number of Stranraer fans quite unhappy after that one. And while I could see some of the points, I didn't really get that. It's the Scottish Cup. We're through. We get into the next round. I'm sticking to my guns that I think Clydebank, notwithstanding the result at the weekend, they are arguably the best non-league side in Scotland this season, certainly at the moment. Equally, I think you probably said this, and I don't disagree with you, that for long spells of the 90, I thought they were the better side. But actually, we got to extra time, and while it was a pity that Ryan Edgar couldn't score in the 89th minute rather than the 91st, save us all that half hour, I thought extra time we looked, well, pretty much on top, I would say. So no, happy with that, happy to get through. I know I'm jumping ahead, but the draw, the home game against Queen's Park, not the glamour tie we were looking for, but actually it's not unwinnable either, and it's at home.
What about yourself, Brian? As I say, the most important thing surely is the fact that we got through in the end.
First of all, Tommy, isn't this football an easy game, isn't it? we can't stop losing. I mean, that Clydebank game I think, was a game of different opinions. You know, Lawrence and me, we loved it as a cup tie. You know, and the way I voted doing this, you know, the first half I thought was quite even. You know, chances at both ends. Second half, I watched the whole game again, and I've got to admit we were quite poor in the second half. You know, I didn't think we were as poor as what we were. But it's that old thing I said, you've got to start with the hot tap on. We started slow and we couldn't get out of that gear. You know, we couldn't get out of the gear we were in. Clydebank started right on it, and they you know, dominated us in that second half, mainly through Nicky Lowe, who's still a fantastic player, by the way. You know, he, for 33-year-old on that park, heavy ground, you know, I thought he was great. I mean, and then the extra time, I thought we were the better team, even though they went down to 10 men, they had a couple of chances. But we had loads of chances in extra time as well, you know, to put it to bed. Probably Dominic McManus should absolutely, you know, burst the net with his chance, you know, to make it 3-1, and that would just have finished it, you know. But all in all, as Lawrence says, it's a cup tie. Who's caring what the performance is like? You're through into the next round, you know, and happy days.
You say, Brian, about Clydebank kind of having the upper hand in the second half. Other than the Neil McLaughlin effort that hit the crossbar, I can't really think of too much that Josh Lane had to do.
No, they didn't test Josh too much. That's what I said in the chat on the Sunday. They never really tested us, you know, apart from that, you know, shot with McLaughlin, which was a cracker, you know, and that would probably have won them a game, I think, because I don't think we were coming back for that. But no, they didn't test Josh that much. They dominated, you know, I thought, the second half, and as I say, we were quite poor. But a wee bit surprised. I don't disagree with Tiff very often, but maybe it's a manager's thing, but he thought the players were poor. You know, I don't know what he thought for the whole game, but he said it was a poor performance. But, you know, it's different opinions, and, you know, that was his opinion. But I didn't think we were poor the whole game.
Thank you for joining us, George. Do you think what Chris said after the match? Was that perhaps to try to get a reaction the following week?
Potentially, yeah. I think he's always going to look at the performance first and foremost because his job is to manage performance. But I think for us as fans, you're looking at it on a Saturday night and you're through in the Scottish Cup, and that's at the end of the day, that's all that matters. I thought there were times where Clydebank were on top, as Brian says. I think if McLaughlin's chance goes in, then it's game over. But after the sending off, I thought we were miles ahead in extra time. We obviously got the goals when we needed to get them. And yeah, you're looking at it and going, maybe that's a tie that we would have lost a couple of years ago, and we'd be looking at another exit from the Scottish Cup. But instead, we ground out and did what we needed to do.
Just sticking with yourself, George, can Clydebank feel a wee bit hard done by? Obviously, an own goal, a deflected effort, they hit the bar, or is that just kind of, well, that's football?
Yeah, and we knew they'd turn up, and they did. They looked every bit the Lowland League leaders and the club that is certainly on the rise. And I think we all said on match day that we were impressed with everything from Clydebank on and off the pitch. Both the support, the representation behind the scenes, their media stuff is good. But most of all, the playing squad, I think they really showed up and did the fans proud. So fair play to them. But this is a Stranraer podcast, and we're looking back on it and going, thank goodness we're through, and we don't have to worry about exiting early and the associated kind of financial implications of that.
There's a foul there, ref. No.
How long is the ref taking?
He's off, Lawrence. He's off.
Yeah, he's been booked twice.
Yeah.
Hodge.
I looked, as I've said to you, I looked and looked and looked at it on the Sunday, and I even slowed it down considerably on YouTube. And my ultimate feeling, I guess, is that the Clydebank player, I'm trying to remind myself who it was actually. I've scribbled it down somewhere.
Adam Hodge?
It was Adam Hodge, yeah, the substitute number 2. I think he made contact, but I don't necessarily know that there was intention there. You could make a case for, looking at it from the dugout side, from where George was filming from the stand, that that Hodge got up and tried to go over the top of the player to get to the ball and caught him. I think there was contact. That I can see why Clydebank were complaining, basically, Cameron.
I think for myself, I guess kind of two things. It was a second yellow, and I think if he's intentionally trod on him, it should have been a straight red. I don't think he did intentionally stand on him, but equally, I guess he knows where Finn Ekrapont is. Like, Finn's obviously been knocked over in the kind of previous challenge. He's not going to have miraculously disappeared. He knows where he is. I think I would have felt slightly hard done by if I was a Clydebank fan, or if it had been kind of the other way around. But equally, I can just about see where the referee's coming from. What about yourself, Brian?
Just to add one final thing, Cameron, the ref was really close to it. That's the only other thing I would add.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not very often I agree with Ali Grieve, but I think he got that one right. It looked as though the guy did, well, I don't know what he meant to do, but he did stand in him, and Grieve was standing, as you say, Lauren, quite close to him, and just, give him the second yellow. I thought it was a foul in the first place. I don't think he gave a foul for the barge. Right away, I thought that was a foul, but the ball ran out of play, and the boy, I think he stood in him, but he'll probably say it wasn't meant. But I thought it was well, as you say, Cam, it could have been straight red if it was deliberate, but I think a yellow was right, and it was the right call.
What about yourself, George?
Yeah, I can't really add anything more than that. I think I'll just echo what the other guys have said. It's probably unfortunate in some respects that I don't think he's meant to do it, but he's landed his full weight on Finn, and he had to see red.
I think, Lawrence, without wanting to kind of pick out favourites in the Stranraer squad, I think it'd be fair to say that the fans almost a kind of extra celebration when it is Ryan Edgar that scores. And as you said, I think it was about 35 seconds into extra time, and it just felt like a kind of weight off everyone's shoulders when that went in.
Yeah, and I take your point. It was a deflected goal, but I don't think it was a cheap goal. I think Ryan battled for
Oh,
it. He arguably, the look of the bounce when it hit off, it looks as if it hit off the inside of the defender's leg. You're right though, and I do wonder sometimes what the other players feel that Ryan gets that extra cheer, he gets man of the match. But aye, it's just local pride. The main competition would be if another local came through, then we would see what would happen. But no, fair play to Ryan. He came on and made a difference, and that was just enough to get us into the hat for the next round. One thing I wanted to add about the game was credit to the Bankies fans. We've seen since then with Stirling and Albion at home the following week, maybe 20, 25 Stirling supporters down. And that's not a dig at them. That's kind of routine for a lot of clubs in League Two. And equally, I'm not saying if Clydebank come up that they'll bring a couple of hundred or 250 every time. It's a bit of a novelty for them. But my goodness, it was nice just to get a cup tie with a real cup tie atmosphere.
it just goes to show as well, Brian, kind of how important is that winning habit. Obviously, Clydebank made the trip down, going well in the Lowland League, and fully believing we can come down here and cause a cup shock.
Yep. We really had to dig in. And I think it was really their cup final. To me, that was it. They were up for that. And if we were 10% off it, they were going to give us a right game. And we were, especially in the second half, and we had to really dig in and get that result, which is a great thing with this team, I think. If they're looking for a result, they dig right in and they'll get that result. Clydebank were good in the day, as I say, but we're through. And I suppose that's all that counts.
Just to come to yourself, George, we've spoken in the past, and we'll probably speak later about this as well in terms of the kind of creative options that we've got going forward. But there does seem to be more of a kind of a dig, that kind of steeliness, I guess, about the team that I think it was mentioned earlier that a couple of seasons ago we probably wouldn't have come through that game.
Yeah, and Brian made the point there that it was Clydebank's cup final, and I think it takes an extra percentage from the team facing that team. The favourites, if you like, the traditional favourites. I wouldn't say we were going into that. I think Clydebank are a strong team that are used to winning. But yeah, there is an extra dig about this team, and I think that is part and parcel of how we've gone on this winning run. Is that we're not just good to watch attacking. We've got some creative players in our midst, but we've got character and we've got belief, and there's that togetherness there that you can see. It's not just people saying that. You can see it on the pitch, and the proof is in the pudding.
Just sticking with yourself for a minute, George. Our goalkeeper has perhaps been questioned, I guess, in recent weeks. In extra time, he made an absolutely brilliant save from, I think it was Nicky Lowe's quick free kick. If that had gone in, probably one of those goals that people would have been talking about for weeks.
Yeah, and just on Josh, I think being a goalkeeper, it's a difficult position. There isn't a goalkeeper up and down the country who doesn't go through a season or goes through a season without making a mistake or making an error, and it's a position where no matter what happens, if you're at fault, it gets shown up. And I think Josh is a young keeper who's made very few of those kind of errors or mistakes. He's read what Lowe was trying to do, and he's backpedaled enough to get to it. I think it's one of those where, again, much like McLaughlin's, if that goes in, that fully changes the game. And a bit of panache from Lowe to attempt it from the halfway line, a bit of the Finn Crepont about him, if you like.
Just say it, George. Josh managed to do what Schmeichel couldn't do.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I think that's a fair point as well that George was making there, Lawrence, that if Deryn Lang or Ryan Edgar or an outfield player gives the ball away, there's obviously going to be somebody behind them to hopefully kind of mop up any danger. As a goalkeeper, you make a mistake and there's a very good chance it ends up in the net.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, you can make one mistake in the game, and you know the Facebook warriors are online afterwards saying, Josh was poor today, he didn't do well. So no, absolutely no qualms about Josh. He's a young keeper, as George says. He will make the odd error, but my God, he makes up for it with some of the saves he pulls off when, you know, arguably you could get away with not making them.
If we move on to Saturday's win over Stirling, another game, another Deryn Lang goal. So let's hear from him now.
Thoughts on the game, first of all, then. I think we started off really, really well. Dominant, as you could see. Rightfully going in, 3-1. Was it 3-1? I think we went in. Rightfully going in. We smelt blood. I think we started off on the right foot. And unfortunately, we kind of rattled ourselves when we scored a goal. But we were our own worst enemy at times. And it's clear, like, I think when we score, obviously I had a good few chances. Not just me, we all had a good few chances. Keeper had a really good team. I was just talking to Lawrence about that there. Had a really, really good game. But aye, we made a meal out of it, didn't we?
It certainly felt that way. The 3-2, with all due respect to Stirling, probably flattered them a wee bit.
Oh, 100%. Like, that could have been 6 or 7 for us. I had 4 chances myself. Obviously scored one of them. I should have scored the one. Well, the first half I definitely should have scored that. The second half, I think I tried not to get too much on it. The keeper's made a save, but he should be putting that in instead of just trying to pass it in the net. He should be just taking that ball and the boy in the net with him. So aye, I mean 3-2 definitely flattered him.
You say about the chances, I think I'm right in saying it's 6-7 years since a Stranraer player got a hat-trick.
I know, I'm due it, man. It's annoying me, to be fair. I think missing the first, don't know, a bit maybe was I'm in from half 2 months this season. Now I've got 6 goals. Was it 6? Is it 6? 7. 7 goals, aye. 7 goals and 4 assists or something like that. So, I mean, I'm contributing well to the team, I just need to keep up. But obviously, I should have had 4 there. You know what I mean? That goal tally should be up already. And missing the first few months of the season, I think I've bided my time with it. I've worked hard behind the scenes, when I really sees. Just getting my legs stronger, especially my hamstrings, because they were temperamental last year. So I'm working really, really hard just to contribute to the team as best as possible.
You certainly seem like a man in form. The goals are coming in bursts, and obviously there's only been a couple of games as of late where you've not scored.
Obviously, consistency for me was a big thing, especially last year. You've seen it dribs and drabs. You've seen the East Fife game. You've seen 2 East Fife games actually, and played really, really well. I might not always score, but I'm contributing in other ways as well. Do you know what I mean? My running, my hard work, and my assists as well. So I've obviously got 4 this season already. So just trying to contribute to the team as much as possible, and just trying to keep that consistency there, because consistency is key. And I challenge myself to do that every week now.
Obviously the other strikers, the other forward options, the recognised strikers are out injured. Is this a real opportunity for you to cement your place as number 1 striker?
I mean, it's just, I'm not really thinking that way. Obviously I want to play all the time, but I'm just want to help the team as much as possible. Like, you want to play the most informed players, and obviously I'm informed just now, but I'm just trying to work hard all the time, work with a team, because it's a Lion team. I'm just trying to work as a tough in the team. Obviously we had a wee shaky start to the season, and now we're performing really, really well. But obviously we kind of let ourselves slip up today. Obviously maybe conceding 2, we shouldn't be conceding that first goal anyway. We got a ball looking for that. Second goal, we shouldn't even be conceding the second goal, because I think that's a few times that's happened this season. We're just trying to eliminate any mistakes, because if we're ruthless in front of goal as well, I'm not just saying that if I'm ruthless, obviously with 4 chances today, if we're ruthless and we can stop the mistakes, like, we'll be the team to beat in the league. I think, we're coming on to a game anyway.
Well, obviously you still need to work hard during the games, but I don't imagine any teams looking at the fixture list and going, well, good, we've got Stranraer this week, we're flying at the moment.
I think a lot of people doubted us at the start of the season. Obviously I know it's quite early, but if we perform well all the way through December, you know what it's like now. For performing well all the way through December, and we take the turn into the new year in a good position, that's a big thing, do you know what I mean? So we just need to keep going, keep working hard, and keep getting 3 points as much as we can.
A couple of weeks ago, Brian, you had compared Deryn to Craig Malcolm. I'll hold my hands up, I probably wouldn't quite go that far. But he's obviously a boy that's in fine form just now.
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about the day, Cammy. I compared him to Malky, 2 or 3 weeks ago. And you boys didn't laugh. That's goodies, but I'm beginning to say, well, I was maybe a wee bit right there because he's scoring some fantastic goals, and he's also getting into better positions these days. I don't know whether he's learning on the job. He's getting a run in the team, but you see the positions he's taking up, and I think that's how he's getting as many chances. And against Stirling, I mean, he could have many four, at least four. The goalkeeper had a couple of fantastic saves from him, but the first goal was a peach, and second was I could have scored that calm in the second, but he was there at the right. He was there, but that's the kind of goal. That's the kind of goal Malky used to score.
Yeah.
6-yard poacher. That is the kind of goals Malky done all the time, tap-ins and such like. So he's playing really, really well. I'm delighted for the boy. I really am.
Is Deryn's form, Lawrence, is it reflective of the team's form as a whole just now?
Absolutely. Yeah, it really is. What I did want to add to what both yourself and Brian were saying is that, Brian was talking about a good old-fashioned poacher's goal. That's second one against Stirling Albion. But it's the range of different goals that Deryn's coming up with. You think to his goals at East Fife last season, you think his goal at Three Rovers last season. I'm jumping ahead, but the goal on Tuesday night against East Kilbride, it looks as if he was surrounded by 4 or 5 defenders. And actually, what is different about Deryn, apart from his confidence, which has come on leaps and bounds, it's the ruggedness. He seems to have built himself up physically since Tiffin Ginge came along last season. And you started noticing it last season. Obviously, he was out with an injury at the start of this season. But, when you see some of the players he's going up against now, and I don't think, with respect, Deryn would have been doing that just after he joined us. He's really, really developed himself. Come on, leaps and bounds.
7 goals in his last 8 games, George. He's just seizing the opportunity that he's getting.
Certainly is. Lawrence made the point there about his difference in size. I think when we were at Partick commentating, he was up there with Brian, and you could actually see the width of his legs when he was sitting there. I think he's a different athlete now than he was when he first joined us. He looks like a different person. So he's clearly putting in the work. You're following up. You look at his Instagram feed, and he's doing extra work, doing extra sessions with, I think it's David Dunn. And again, you can kind of see the results of that on the pitch. Lawrence mentioned his goal at East Kilbride. Again, we're kind of jumping ahead. If we jump back to Spartans, Ainsley Park, I think you said on commentary, Cameron, that I don't think he's going to manage to get a shot away, but he turns and he makes the finish. So yeah, he's always had that kind of energy, and but yeah, he's starting to put all the pieces together, and it's great to see, because we all know Deryn, and he's he wants to do well for the club.
Away from Deryn, Lawrence, was that as one-sided a 3-2 game as you've ever seen?
Aye, absolutely. That if you groaned when that goal went indirect from corners, and that is, corners are something that we're going to have to work on. Happened again against East Kilbride. That seems to be the only way teams are scoring against us at the moment. But yeah, that game, we all agreed half time could have been 5 or 6, arguably 1 or 2, to be fair to Stirling Albion. We just couldn't score. But again, I think it's one of these games similar to what George was saying about the Clydebank game a couple of seasons ago. We would have let in a third goal right at the end and crumbled after they got back to 3-2. The football, we need to talk about the football in the first half against Stirling Albion. There was a sort of 15-20 minute spell when we were unplayable. I'm going to mention him again. Dominic Plank, who got man of the match, was absolutely unplayable. It was a joy to watch. And actually, I can't believe, looking back again, that, we're moaning about being 3-1 up, but I actually can't believe we were only 3-1 up, given that, flowing football out of midfield. It was absolutely lovely to watch.
As you say, Lawrence, there was a spell in that first half and periods in the second half as well, but it looked like every time we went forward, we would score. And if it wasn't, well, I think we hit the woodwork 3 times. And some stunning saves for their keeper as well. There'll not be too many occasions where a keeper concedes 3 and is probably man of the match.
I was going to say that, Cameron, that, we're raving about Deryn, Dom Plank, every other player on the Stranraer team going forward. But actually, my man of the match was Robert Duffy.
I think that pretty much says it all, Brian. That, as I say, you hear managers say after games that, oh, the score could have been this if we had taken our chances. But this was genuinely one of those occasions where if even half of the chances had gone in, it would have been a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean Duffy, but Duffy for his trouble on Saturday. He got dropped last night for the game against Morton on Tuesday night against Morton. So obviously, Alan Mabry didn't think he had a great game. No, I think he was just bringing in Gaston for a wee cameo. I don't know, but I mean it was, as Lauren says. I mean 3-2 was insane. It really was. I mean, it could have been 8-9. You could have a calculator on, the chances we had, and we'll hate touching at the corners. Fess must be absolutely pulling his hair out because I think that's 5 corners conceded recently. The goals we're conceding, and I mean, if we can see it, other teams can see it. They're looking at our tapes and videos and all the rest of it. Oh, maybe a wee bit suspect, in corners. Saturday, the two corners, the 2 goals we conceded, the corners. Lewis Reed's been absolutely fantastic, but I'll apologise to him if it wasn't him, but I think that was his man, McLean at the corner, and he just pulled away from him, and that's all McLean. McLean's a very experienced striker. He pulled away, he got that extra yard on Lewis. Lewis couldn't stop it, and Josh had no chance. Second goal for the
Brian,
corner. Sorry?
In fairness, Stirling Albion's only thing in their armoury really was corners. And we needed to avoid giving them away, and we didn't, because they put the corners right about 3 yards from goal and surrounded the keeper. Sorry for interrupting, Brian.
No, not at all. And the second goal, I mean, why do we not put players on posts these days? Stranraer don't need players on posts at corners, do they? If Josh misses that, does a player not get it with his head? No, am I wrong?
The one against Edinburgh City, we did have Finn on the back post, and he kind of took a step towards the middle of the goal. I don't know if he thought that somebody was going to get a touch, and he was trying to move across to block it. But yeah, I agree. Somebody on the back post heads that clear, kicks it clear, or whatever. I
mean, in the olden days, right and left back were right post, left post, but that doesn't seem to happen these days. I'm not questioning Fess's tactics, but it's something that's. I mean, the corners and Stranraer management must be looking at that and saying, "Look, we've got to tighten up here," because it's really the only way we're conceding is it corners. Teams aren't cutting us open. It's because of set plays. We're losing goals, and as I say, we're one of the best defences in the league. But if it wasn't for corners, we'd be probably right up with the best defence in the league.
We've said before, George, in terms of if you're not at a game, if you're kind of, whether it's through the BBC, you're keeping it up to date, or through social media, etc., it gives you a little bit of a feel for the game, but it doesn't give you kind of the real picture of being there. How did you enjoy? Obviously, we weren't filming Stranraer, Stirling, Albion. How did you enjoy just being able to sit and watch it and see Stranraer without the worries and everything else that comes along with making sure you're filming it?
Well, Lucinda can tell you that I'm normally quite a nervous spectator. I quite like being behind the camera and having a task while I'm there. But yeah, absolutely, I've loved following. I've had a stream from the coaching staff for the last couple of weeks. So I've been sat in a hotel room at midnight in Tokyo, Japan, watching my beloved Blues with a stack in hand and trying not to wake up the girls. But yeah, just amazing to be able to watch from so far away and see us banging in the goals. And obviously, I'm sure we'll come to it, but James is doing a grand job in my absence and holding the fort, and great to give him a chance to have a go on the main camera. Yeah, amazing. And we're on such a good run. It's a shame to not be there to watch it, but absolutely loving it.
Just since you mentioned James there, and obviously we'll go into the Kilbride game, But obviously, he was there filming the Stirling game. He was there filming the East Kilbride game, and I think it'd be fair to say weather conditions were far from ideal. Fair play to him for stepping up, and obviously, we've said before how appreciated the highlights are, not just by Stranraer fans, but kind of Scottish football fans in general. It's lovely to have him to step in to carry that on.
And I'm a bit of an analytics geek. I've been looking at the views, and they've, they keep going up and up with James on. So it's absolutely nothing to do with me that we get the views. I think it's maybe the two of the other gents on the call. Yeah, and I think one thing I was chatting to James about through the week is that it's such a good way to kind of learn on the job. I've been filming games for 5 years, and I said to him every week I learn something new, and it's whether it's something I've not plugged in or a switch I've not switched on, it doesn't matter. There's something to learn as we go, and James is obviously taking his first steps in covering the games and doing a mighty job. So many thanks to him.
Back to the football itself, Lawrence, and taking the goal scorers out of the equation for a second, that is the range of kind of creative options that we've got a real strength for us just now. I mean, obviously we've spoken about the kind of midfield. You've got James Dolan, Dominic Plank, Danny McManus, Mark Russell. You've got Finn Ekrapont's deliveries. We've probably not seen the best of Ronan Hughes yet, obviously, but we're a team that look like we're dangerous going forward.
Well, I know it's maybe jumping ahead a bit, but let me give you Tuesday night as an example. We went to East Kilbride. We've lost 3-1 to them twice this season. They're top of League Two after Saturday's results. With all due respect to Spartans, I'd be quite surprised if East Kilbride aren't top of League Two at the end of the season. We made 6 changes on Tuesday night and we won 4-1 away at the league leaders. I think that underlines the threat we've got. I think the headache, we've talked about this before, the headache that Tiff has, that is, once everybody's fit, and I appreciate we're still away from that, he could have 24 bodies there. He'll literally get 2 teams. Somebody said that online. It's another team that we've got. It's 2 separate teams almost. And actually, there's not a lot between them. There's nothing between them. You can mix and mingle to your heart's content. But I was going to say his big problem, obviously, is trying to keep everybody happy. And the one thing I didn't really get until a good few weeks, couple of months into Tiff's reign, actually, is he talked about it's a squad. And you kind of let that go in one ear and out the other to begin with, because you get a lot of managers that come out with a lot of cliches, the same as Brian and I do. But he actually has done it that way. He's not frightened, so bring on 5 substitutes a game. And, if we'd done that a couple of seasons ago, we would have weakened the first team. Now we've made 6 changes on Tuesday night, and you couldn't say that was weaker. We won 4-1 away from home in horrendous conditions. So, you're absolutely right. The options we've got to push forward, and bearing in mind we're operating at the moment with one recognised striker, and actually we're scoring more goals than ever. So, yeah, the options are there, Cameron.
I think increasingly, Brian, that the fact that you can make 5 subs, that pretty much the days of just having a strong 11 need to be in the past, because other teams inevitably are going to be making those 5 changes, and whether it's just kind of putting something different on to kind of pose a different question, you need to have a strong squad increasingly now.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a bit surprised with East Kilbride's lineup. He said, Kennedy at the weekend said he was going to change it a bit on Tuesday night. He only had 2 changes. So that says to me he doesn't trust his bench. He had quite a lot of good players on the bench. He had Healy, Minno, C, another couple, who he could have brought in, but he didn't bring them in. He'd only 2. And I mean, they're away to Dumbarton. They've got a hard week, and I was quite surprised at the teams. But I mean, we changed it. Lawrence says we had 6. I thought it was 7, but it was 6. Okay, Lawrence. And we had a right strong, midfield. I think with Russell, Hughes, and Hunter in that, that wee middle bit, and that would probably, to me, be better than East Kilbride. I know they had Baldy and they had Leach, but I think that them 3 boys really strong in midfield, and a night like that, really surprised East Kilbride. And of course they couldn't play the silky football in them conditions. You know, whether the game should have went, we were talking about earlier on, whether the game should have went ahead, I don't know. I mean, I heard Jim saying, I suggested this 2 or 3 weeks ago, there should be a kind of win machine, you know, and if it's over a certain amount, you know, we can't play it today. I still say we almost lost our League Two status with that defeat at Clyde when it should never have been played. The win was absolutely horrendous, you know, and we lost that last minute goal. I know managers say it's a base for same sides, but both are for both sides. But I mean, why should it be? Maybe we should use. You're too young for this, Cammy, but there used to be a program called Opportunity Knock. It used to be a program called Opportunity Knocks, right? Now, when the audience liked somebody on the stage, you used what I called a clapper meter. So when the audience clapped, the clapper meter went right up. So it should maybe use a window meter at football, you see, and see when it went too high, because over 40, 45, yeah, game off. That's my solution to it anyway.
I never thought in 2025 Brian Martin would be bringing Hughie Green onto the Stranraer podcast. Opportunity Knocks, folks. And he's right, everybody clapped and this meter went up and down on the screen.
Just looking forward to Brian going on Dragon's Den
Well,
with
I
us.
think it's a wee guy looking at the background.
I was worried when he was mentioning using a wind machine a minute or two ago. I thought, is that not trying to get games cancelled?
I could see him up on the roof of the stand with a sock on the end of a pole. And
You need to down them first, Brian.
In all seriousness, George, I can only think of one Stranraer game that's been called off due to a strong wind, and I think that was up at Arbroath a few seasons back now.
Yeah, I think that was a car trip to Gayfield that we took, and we were there for 20 minutes and then got turned around. The goal kicks were going up in the air and then coming back towards, I think it was Derek Gaston at the time. It's his second mention. I think it takes beyond storm force conditions for a game to be called off. It seems like you can have any amount of wind, but if the pitch is a bit slidey, then game's a bogey. And it's not the greatest spectacle, but at least, again, we're looking back and saying we had a game of football to watch.
Yeah.
I think in a strange way, it almost makes it, depending on if you win or not, it makes it kind of more entertaining that you are getting this kind of lottery of, you see a cross that looks like it's going into the keeper's arms, and then no, it's going to land in the 6-yard box, no, the penalty spot, and then all of a sudden it's come back out of the box again. It does make it farcical, but I guess it's interesting to watch, George.
We like farcical a little bit though. I think there's an appeal in that. Certainly when you're pointing a camera at the pitch, there is anyway. And yeah, you obviously don't want the spectacle to be just the weather. But luckily, we had more than that to get excited about.
Speaking, we mentioned Dominic Plank there, and Lawrence caught up with him at full time after the Stirling game.
Dom, 3-2 win over Stirling at home. First of all, what did you make of the game?
I think we dominated them. It was a good game to be involved in. I felt like I impacted it, but we made harder work of what it should have been. Like, they should have been put to bed. So disappointed with that, but the 3 points is the main thing, so buzzing with that. There was
a spell in particular in the middle of the first half that people are saying you were unplayable. I think as a team going forward we felt unplayable for a brief spell, and it felt as if we could have been 4, 5, 6 at that point.
I know, yeah, it's enjoyable. Like, that's when getting on the ball, that's what I want to do. And it did feel good to be part of that. But again, yeah, we've got to put more goals in the net. But yeah, it felt good to play.
And it genuinely, so we see you on the ball, we see you, you're not taking the easy option, just sliding away to somebody, you're going back, twist and going back the other way around the player. Yeah. Is it something you just enjoy doing when you're playing?
Yeah, I just want to take on my man, like fans enjoy to watch. And that's just how I play, do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to take the simple route. I feel like I've got the ability to go and take a man on, and if I want to do him again, then I'll do it again.
How's it felt for you? Because obviously you were making loads of appearances from the bench, but I think that's maybe the last 3 in a row you've started now. So how different? I'm guessing you just prefer that. It's going to be better for you, more game time.
Yeah, like, yeah, the more time on the pitch, the better. Do you know what I mean? More time to impact it. I feel like I've been digging away, coming on, impacting the game. But now, obviously, getting a lot more minutes, I feel like there's just more opportunity to do even better. And hopefully that's what I've been doing. Just need to add that goal now.
And it ties in with well, we're already on a good run, but what's that, certainly three wins,
Yeah,
the ones you've been involved in, so that must feel pretty good at the end of a Saturday, going back up the road thinking, 3 points, played my part.
Yeah, 100%. Nothing better than a win, do you know what I mean? So I'm really enjoying that.
This is not a criticism by any means, but I'm guessing in your mind the one next thing just to add is a goal. You've got close on a number of occasions.
Yeah, I'm hard on myself with that, obviously. People look at who scored the goals, you know what I mean? And the game should have been put to bed. I should have helped put us to bed. There's no way that should be 3-2, so 100% I want to add goals, and I feel like that will come. So.
How does your week work for you? Obviously, at Hearts, are you training there during the week, training with us midweek nights? How does your week play out?
Yeah, so Monday I'm with Hearts. If I play a lot on the Saturday, it'll probably be a more chill session, and then Tuesday I'll be Hearts and Stranraer.
Right.
Wednesday off, Thursday Stranraer, Friday a little bit in Hearts, and then Saturday. So
it's a busy old weekend.
It is, yeah. But
I'm a
footballer, do you know what I mean? So yeah.
Are you enjoying the travelling? It's obviously a fair bit of travelling for you.
I actually am, you know. Like, it's Glasgow, so it's not too bad. It's like when people say Stranraer, they think all the way, but we train in Glasgow, so and it's just good. The more football, the better for me. So I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
As I mentioned earlier, Lawrence, there was a spell, particularly in the first half, where we looked really, really good going forward. And as you mentioned, Dominic Plank was very much at the heart of that.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, if he was able to, obviously he wasn't available on Tuesday night, he was cup tied. If he was to continue playing like that, I'm sure Brian agrees, you can only see a very bright future in the game for that young man. He's come up from, I think it was Wolves to Hearts. He's out on loan to get game time. It's it's a real battle in this Stranraer squad to actually get a starting berth at the moment. And fair play to him, he's managed to get that. And actually, the way he played against Stirling Albion, you're thinking, why wouldn't you start him? And it's the confidence. So we are used to players running at their opponents, and maybe it works. We're also used to players who run at their opponent, beat them, then go back and try and beat them again. The difference with Dom Plank is he's running at an opponent. If it doesn't work, he's twisting and turning, trying a different route. Then he's twisting and turning, trying the other way. And actually, on the evidence of what we saw against Stirling Albion, 80% of the time he was coming out with the ball at the other end. And it was just magic to watch. It was like old-fashioned sort of jerseys for goalposts, the socks rolled down kind of football. And it's the kind of thing, well, it gives bums off seats. And you saw that when the young man was substituted late in the game. Everybody stood up to give him a standing ovation. And you know what? I hope it's not the last we see that, because it was absolutely joyous to watch.
I totally go along with that, Brian. That kind of self-belief, that confidence that whenever he gets the ball, there's only kind of one thing in mind, and it's I'm going to go beat my man and be positive.
Yeah, I think it's to use a cliche, it gets bums off seats. Just the dribbling and such, like an old-fashioned dribbler. It's great. It's great to watch, actually. And honestly, I can't see him knocking about League Two in Scotland for a while anyway. I'm quite sure he's going to great higher heights and that. But he's great to watch, and we are lucky to have him. For I don't know how long. Hopefully, Hearts will let him to the end of the season, which would be absolutely fantastic. But we'll just enjoy him while we've got him.
Now, Tuesday night, Lawrence, other than being a glowing endorsement for summer football in Scotland, we've watched the highlights. You were there. As I say, the highlights kind of show or kind of give a little bit of an indication of what the weather was like. Tell us what it was like at K Park watching that from the pitch side.
So credit again to James Verity, who drove up from Cumbria through that. I drove from Edinburgh, and believe me, on the M8, the car was shifting from side to side at points, and I think it was probably worse the route that James was coming up. I arrived at the K Park about 7:20, pretty confident that when I walked into the ground, I would see a referee inspecting things and saying, let's no bother, because I'd just started to hear about other late postponements. those wondering why there was no audio on Tuesday night, we clearly were not able to use the scaffolding gantry at East Kilbride. You'd need to be an utter madman to attempt that in the wind that was ongoing. So James was at the back of, and this isn't slagging it, but it's a three-seater stand. So it wasn't ideal for him to film. Even less ideal because basically pretty much everybody was standing in the stand and they're all massed round about him. So I decided at that point, one, because I would have been on my own in commentary, and two, the viewpoint was pretty horrendous not to commentate. James did a fantastic job. In terms of the game, Brian mentioned Joe Baldy earlier on. Joe Baldy was almost anonymous on Tuesday night. Now, whether that was the weather, whether he wasn't up for it, whether that was just the way Stranraer played, but he's the one I'm picking out as being anonymous. John Robertson did what John Robertson usually did and bustled forward, created openings, looked for penalties. Don't blame him. I would do the same if I was him. But it didn't really succeed. You mentioned Ronan Hughes earlier on. Ronan Hughes was in the midfield. And, the fitter Ronan Hughes gets, it's, Brian was talking about our midfield on Tuesday night. It's a no-nonsense midfield that was there on Tuesday night. And, East Kilbride, again, I don't know if the conditions helped us, hindered them, but a combination of that and a Stranraer side that were just determined. And by the way, we grew into the game. To begin with, it was all East Kilbride, Robertson down the wings, throwing the ball in. We repelled it, and we're getting better at doing that, apart from obviously the corner later in the game. But it just went on and on and on. We got the penalty when Joe Morrison came out and flattened BJ Collin. The keeper was fooled by the wind, flattened BJ. By the way, I think we had a stronger claim for a penalty maybe about 5 minutes later. And I don't know whether the referee just didn't agree with me or whether it was like they've already had one, I'm not giving another one. And we just got stronger as it went on. 1-0 at half time, you're still thinking they'll come back into it. But the old bang with his 8th of the season. And again, he was surrounded by either 4 or 5 defenders. He had no right to get a shot away and beat Joe Morrison from, looked like the 18-yard line. And then the longer the game went on, we just began to dominate. The third one was a lovely finish from McManus, shot on the angle, which completely fooled the keeper. The keeper should have done better with that one, I would have thought. And then at the end, what I liked about Lewis Hunter's goal, it was a tap-in. But by that stage of the game, we were flooding their box with players and just looking super confident. And, I think by that stage, the time we got to 3-1 and 4-1, very quickly later, the writing was on the wall and we were just ready to celebrate, set a bonfire up in the stand, thaw ourselves out, whatever you want to do. Just wanted home at that point. But magnificent result. And, the chap who came up to me at the game that we lost 3-1, Brian, and looked at me and said, "Your boys took a hell of a beating." Obviously having a go about your commentary in the playoff game. Fair play to me. Come up at the end of Tuesday night, said, "Your boys took a hell of a beating." Shook my hands. He did say, "We'll sort you out in January when it matters." And I'm like, well, we'll see. But no, thoroughly enjoyable occasion. And that's not what I was expecting when I set off along the motorway in the howling gale, an hour earlier.
I think both sets of highlights, George, kind of show East Kilbride having plenty of the ball kind of early doors. And whether this is partly down to the conditions as much as anything, Josh didn't really have a great deal to do. A couple of, I think a cross that went behind the goal and then one in the 6-yard box that he came for. They might have had plenty of the ball, but didn't really work the goalkeeper, I guess.
No, and I've noted that down when I was watching it. I think the first 20 minutes, it was just a bit of a squabble, and we got the better of it. We were out-muscling them, and I think that was probably key to us starting on the front foot, is that we won the physical battle early on. When we go 1-0 up, you're probably thinking, yeah, if we can keep that tight and play our way to the end of the 90, then brilliant. But we've not done that. We've gone for more, and another fantastic win, because looking at the footage, you can actually see beneath the floodlights there's not just like rain going sideways, there's leaves and bits of debris and everything, and so that they were playing into a whirlwind, and credit to both teams really for actually putting on a spectacle.
The leaves were doing a whirlies, George.
Very good.
In terms of the penalty, Brian, I don't think anyone can have any real complaints with that one.
what was the keeper doing? He absolutely wiped it, BJ Cole. My
To be fair,
dear.
I think
In
the
fact,
ball got affected by the wind, Brian. I think that's what happened.
maybe I.
Just
But
lost the fight.
I think Mick Kennedy was very pleased with the goalkeeper. But I think he had the greatest game, the goalkeeper. But I suppose on a night like that, I mean, it's maybe harsh to judge a boy. But we were talking about penalties, Lawrence. Stuart Luke was the referee. That's his fifth penalty in 2 games. He gave 4 on Saturday, Edinburgh City against Dumbarton, and I watched the highlights. I would say 3 were non-penalties. So he's gave 5 penalties in 2 games, and you're right, Lawrence. The second one I thought was a penalty as well. I don't know who was it. Was it Mark Russell? He brought come down, was it? Can't remember. But I thought it was a
I can't
penalty.
remember, but it's a strong one.
You're probably right. You thought to yourself, no, I can't get another penalty here. That would be 6 in 2 games. So, but I mean, it was a penalty all day long at the first one, and that just set us in the way. And again, we conceded for a corner. I'm saying nothing, but that wasn't a post. That was just a hit with the boy. Whether it was a lucky hit, I don't know. But again, we've got to do better at that corner. But we won quite easy, and good to be in the next round.
I actually spoke to BJ Cole today, and he was saying about it. He said that he should have had 2 penalties. He said the goalkeeper clattered him on the way up, and then he said the defender hit me as I was falling down as well. So I think he said he got a busted lip for his troubles. The one thing that I noticed from it, other than the fact, as I say, total Stonewall penalty, is that Cole is standing kind of watching what's going on the far side of the pitch, and he makes his run towards the edge of the box. Nobody bothers to go with him. Nobody, like, he's totally on his own and then gets absolutely wiped out. As I said, no issue with the penalty. Brian, a goal up at half time, continuing your fine statistic. And then Deryn with the goal.
I forgot to mention that, Tommy. That is
I
now
wouldn't let it slide, Brian, don't worry.
that is now 20 games, not behind at half time. Last time we were behind at half time was against Kilbride on the 16th of August, so it's actually 4 months. And I mean, I'm maybe just, I don't know, being biased here, but I think that's an amazing record. Not behind in a football match over 4 months. It's, to me, that's amazing. Don't get me wrong, we've lost a couple in that run. Spartans I can think about. I think Edinburgh City as well. No, it wasn't Edinburgh City.
Annan.
Yeah, Annan. I were drawn at half time. Yeah. So I mean, we've lost 2 or 3, but I still think that start, not being behind at half time. I was trying a quick look to see if any other team is done. Maybe Clyde before. Right enough, they were beat a couple of times earlier on, so maybe no. But anyway, was we a question again, Carly? Was it Deryn Lang? Was it?
Yes, a fine goal by Deryn.
I'm getting caught up in my stats here. Yeah, it was. I mean, as Lawrence says, and I think Bill McCanley says, how did Deryn manage to get that ball through that ruck of legs? And it was a fantastic goal again. It just continues his run, Cammy. I think you said 7 and 8, isn't it? Just continues his scoring form, and that really put the icing on the cake for him. And he's beginning to play. We'll go back to Deryn, but he's beginning to hold the ball up better. He's getting a much more, better centre forward, if you know what I mean. And him getting a run of games will only help him. But we're scoring goals everywhere. In fact, it's great to see.
It's a goal as well, George, that he almost hits it from a standing start. Like he seems to see that there's kind of 4 defenders around him. He stopped and then just plays it through them all and into the corner.
Yeah, he seems to be kind of, like you say, standing, almost like hopping on one foot and then kind of swings his leg at it. A bit like one of those, there used to be football toys back in the day where you pull the leg back and then it flicks the ball. Don't know if that's one of these Subbuteo things that Brian likes to go on about. Yeah, it was. I think it kind of comes to him. There's a bit of fortune about how it drops for him. I think Russell might have been trying to lift it over the defence. It's kind of come to him on the chest, drops down his foot, I think he took 2 touches to get himself into position and finish again from Deryn. Finishing's been outstanding the last couple of weeks. And yeah, it had me wishing I was in East Kilbride and not the Far East.
It's not often you can say that, George.
Yeah, I don't believe that for a second. When East Kilbride got one back, Lawrence, you could be forgiven for thinking that they were going to kind of pile forward, that Stranraer would have a wee bit of a wobble. Didn't really seem to materialise like that.
It didn't. I mean, I kind of, in my memory, I thought we got back in top fairly quickly. To be fair, Breen scored 66 minutes, and it wasn't for another 9 minutes that McManus got our third. But yeah, it goes through your mind when it goes to 2-1. Oh, here we go. They're a good side. The fight back is on. They're at home. They're not going to go down without a fight. But almost the minute Danny McManus finished sweetly with that angled shot, you kind of felt it's game over, and it was only 2 minutes more before the fourth. And the referee at the end of both halves added absolutely no injury time. It kind of tells you one thing, that he was just desperate to get in under cover. But to be fair, when it got to 90 minutes at 4-1, if he'd added 2 minutes on, it wasn't going to change the tie. So I don't think even an East Kilbride diehard could object to, right, let's get home for God's sake. So really comfortable win. It turned on its head the 2 results we'd had with East Kilbride earlier in the season. Does it tell you anything about forthcoming league fixtures against them? I don't know. I don't know how big a part conditions played, but I do think we are a very different proposition, certainly from the team we were back in August in the first meeting with them. And, we could go on till the cows come home about John Robertson's impact on the Stair Park game. I don't know if that's helpful or otherwise, because they did deserve the win that day, to be fair. But yeah, I think we're just a very different proposition for teams from what we were at the start of the season.
We mentioned Brian earlier in terms of Deryn's form kind of mirroring Stranraer's form, that he's got stronger as the season's gone on. I would argue that's probably been the case for Daniel McManus as well.
Yeah, he played well again on Saturday. And I watched the highlights yesterday, and he seemed to play really well again. Again, a boy who's stepping up, from the west of Scotland. He's taking time, to maybe get the pace of the game, but in League Two. But he's been respected for performances recently, and hopefully his progress continues, because I know Tiff thinks a lot of the boy.
Yeah.
Football cliche time, George. It'd be fair to say that Daniel McManus, he's got that in his locker. Lovely goal at K Park, and obviously a lovely goal, I think it was against Motherwell B as well at Stair Park.
Yeah, he's shown he's got a finish in him. I think like the boys have said, for Danny, it was about stepping up this season and establishing himself in the SPFL. And I think initially it took him time to find his feet, but equally you could say that the team was still gelling, and it was very early days. And throughout those early months in the season, there was, cohesion was probably an issue for us. But now that it's easy to forget Danny's still a young player, and he is still making his way, and he's shown that he's got a range of passing, he's got creativity, and he's got a great finish in him as well, which can only bode well.
Before we move on, can I just say I love the fourth goal from Stranraer. Really good pass from Mark Russell. I think it's Danny McManus with a cutback. Aaron Quigg dummies it, and Lewis Hunter's all on his own. It's just all on his own to tap the ball into an empty net. It is. And if you watch it back, Brian, you see his run. It's not as if he's standing in the 6-yard box just waiting for this cross to come in. That he sprints into the box and gets his reward from it. And I think Lawrence had said about players kind of flooding the box. That's exactly what we want, particularly when Deryn is the only kind of fit out-and-out striker, that we need those folk that are playing in midfield to make that wee gamble and get into the box. So if the ball does come to them, there's the goal.
Yeah, he got there completely, what's what I'm looking for, hampered by the East Kilbride players, maybe they get fed up with him and say, "Dad, just let him go," because he just sprinted through, and he tapped it. And he did, as you see, Tommy, he came for quite far back, and he was the only one that was alert enough to know, well, okay, this could land at my feet, and it did, so quite good, as you said, a lovely dummy, and it was a great team goal, and one which I'm quite sure the management loved.
I think after the game as well, Lawrence caught up with Danny McManus, so let's hear from him now.
Danny, 4-1 win away at the league leaders. Obviously it's a cup game, but that's got to be a pretty satisfactory night's work.
Yeah, definitely. We knew before the game they were a good side going forward, they've got good players, would cause us problems, but we knew if we just stuck to our shape, work together as a team, and you see it, like we're not giving them much away. Set pieces again that are killing us every week, but 4 goals, we can't really ask for much more.
You're talking about the set piece for their one goal, but actually you're right, we sort of stood firm apart from that and didn't let them in really.
Yeah, you see throughout the game, we didn't have many chances, not many shots, Josh didn't have much to do. Just again, it's a set like that last week, or Saturday, sorry, and then obviously set pieces, corners, just letting us down. We need to tighten up a bit in that and we'll be fine.
Let's go to the other end of the park with 4 goals, and actually, yeah, Markey puts the penalty away, sets things off, but the other goals were all a little bit special. We're starting to actually find a bit of rhythm up front and trying things basically.
Yeah, definitely. Like you see, the last few weeks we're scoring a lot more goals, we're taking more chances, and we're playing more as a team going forward. Everybody's getting up. You see, we're creating a lot more chances. You see, Saturday we create a lot of chances. Could have been a lot more anyway, but tonight we've got 4. We just need to be clinical and it pays off again.
Don't want to be greedy, but actually it could have been more at the end. I mean, even what James Dolan was trying at the end, arguably our guys wouldn't have been trying that a couple of months ago. It looks as if confidence is just blossomed.
Definitely. I mean, you go on a run of games, we've only lost one in however many now. It's just confidence building every week, especially when the boys playing week in, week out, and we know our role in the team and how to play now, and it shows on the park.
3 for you for the season so far. What do you remember about your goal? You grabbed the third one?
Not much really. Just Josh has kicked the ball long, and I knew it would go. It would bounce in behind, so I've just kind of gambled that it would bounce, and luckily the boys missed it and then slipped, and I've just made it put in and put it in the bottom corner.
A feature of the second half was we were getting bodies into the box as well. It wasn't just like one lone striker trying his best to put a shot away. Actually, there were plenty of bodies in that East Kilbride box.
Yeah, that's what we try to do. We try to flood the box. We try to have as many people in the box as possible when we're going forward. And the last few weeks again, you see, create a lot more chances, and it pays off because we're getting forward more. Elgin
away on Saturday, we're in a bit of form, but Elgin are probably also a team, particularly at home, not in a bit of form. That won't be an easy one again.
No, definitely not. They're a good side when they come down to our pitch. We've seen it, we know it'll be a tough game again, but we just need to keep going and hopefully keep on this run we're on.
And well done to you and all the players that cope with that well today. It was really, really unpleasant. Have you got far to go home after this?
No, I live in East Kilbride, so I think I'm 5 minutes.
Ideal. Okay, party at Danny's house.
Yeah, perfect.
Danny, thanks very much, mate. Thank you. Well done tonight.
Now, before we get on to Elgin, obviously the victory over East Kilbride, the victory over Clydebank, through in 2 separate cups. Queen's Park in the Scottish Cup, George, Ayr in the KDM Evolution Trophy. What were your thoughts on the draw? The draws, sorry.
I think obviously the Queen's both ties on paper look like they're potentially winnable, but tough. So you've got 2 championship teams. Queen's Park, I think, again from a football perspective, you would like to think we could give them a game with our current form. Lewis Reed will be up for it. I think it's got all the makings of a good cup tie with 2 traditional teams, the first and third oldest in the leagues. The Ayr United one, probably from again, committee hat on. Financially a bit more lucrative for us, even with it being away. Yeah, I think there's something to like about both of them. Given the way we're playing, I think you would hope that we could progress in at least one or the other. But so you might have maybe looked for an easier tie. But yeah, we'll see what comes.
What about yourself, Brian? Winnable but tough, would that be fair?
Yeah, I think so. Ayr United, they're looking to get into the Premier League this season, so you'd think, I don't know whether Scott Brown will play a strong 11 against Stranraer, because his main aim is to win the playoffs at the top end of the Championship. I looked at their team. I think it was a mixing match against Peterhead on Tuesday night. Peterhead seemed to have a chance against them. They had quite a lot of shots on target. So, I mean, I would love to see us win up there. And again, I mean, I think it's 6 games in 28 days. You know, it's going to be a right tough month, January. You know, we're away some hard places. We're away at East Kilbride in January as well, and Forfar. So we're away at some tough places. I mean, I know managers sometimes don't like this, but they're both free hits. You know, I mean, if we've nothing to lose. We're the League Two side. They're both Championship teams. Get your best going. If you get through, you get through. But I mean, we're guaranteed. I think it's from the 2 games. We're already guaranteed 60 grand. You know, which is absolutely fantastic. You know, but if we do manage to get through one of them, at least you know you could go on for maybe, I don't know, 70, 80 grand. So it's fantastic for the club. And I think I was telling you boys in the chat. I think if my sums are right, I think that's us earned already 100 grand in prize money for cups. The Premier Sports, I think we made about 30 odd grand for that. I think I'm right in that.
If I can,
And we've got 40 from the KDM and 20 from the Scottish Cup already, you know, because we're guaranteed nearly 20. So absolutely fantastic for the club.
just to come in on that one, Brian, we're talking about the squad size and we're talking about the money that's coming in from the cups. We've got a lot of fixtures in a row coming up, and that justifies the squad size plus the you know, the income that we'll be generating. We can afford to run a bigger squad because we'll need the bodies, and it's paying for itself.
That 100 grand, Brian, perhaps a little bit of it will go towards heated seats for yourself and Lawrence for commentary duty. Lawrence, your thoughts on the cup draws?
I couldn't agree more, Tommy.
We don't want Brian Martin to end up with the old Farmer Giles. So you need to be careful what you install at the stair part. I think Ayr away is arguably the for Stranraer fans, particularly the younger generation of Stranraer fans. They've seen Ayr as the sort of rivals in recent, well, when I say recent, the last 20 years, I would say, because we hadn't really played Queen of the South much at all until this season. I'm glad that they come back to join us, given the results against them. So I think Ayr away, it's a nice trip. It's certainly for coming up from the town. It's you know, an hour or so is not far. If you're Central Belt based, it's absolutely doable, even on a Tuesday night, although we'll wait and see what the weather in January is like. And there's probably a frisson more of excitement about playing Ayr than there is Queen's Park, although Queen's Park is the Scottish Cup. We're at home. Disappointed that we didn't get Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Real Madrid away from home, but we'll have to make do with the Spiders at home. And it's not, I'm not going to tempt fate by saying it's winnable, but it's certainly not unwinnable. And that's what I was saying to folk when they said, oh, Clydebank will be tough. Clydebank will be tough. You'll struggle with Clydebank. And I said, well, it's a tough one for us, but it's a tough one for them too. And I don't think Queen's Park will relish the prospect of coming to Stair Park on a cold Saturday in January.
Particularly, fingers crossed, if we carry on the form that we're on in just now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've got to be aware that you know, runs only last so long, but I think I'm right in saying, Cameron, that it's now 2 defeats in 15.
That's
it's
right.
4 wins in a row, 2 in the league, 1 in each of the 2 cups. So, you know, you can't be depressed about that, even if you think it might come crashing to an end at some distant point in the future. You just got to try and keep building. And my God, we saw the conference on Tuesday night, and George is talking about the big squad being justified by the cups and progression in the cups, but also it came back to really help us on Tuesday. 6 changes. You know, you were able to, never mind rest these guys for a bit of the game, but a scenario where you're able to bring on Stewart, Quigg, Sharp, Ekrapont and Dolan. It's not a bad set of players to introduce late in the game when you're already, we're already 3-1 and then maybe 4-1 up when some of these guys come on.
Just sticking with yourself, Lawrence, obviously we head to Elgin this weekend. I think they're 2 places and 2 points better off than us. All the makings of a good game.
Nice pies as well. That's a really important point. When you go that distance, you've got to have a nice pie. Yeah, and I think Brian's probably more the expert on this than me, but I think Elgin are particularly good at home. I think there was a spell earlier in the season they were struggling away from home, and they were doing really well at home. Alan Hale has worked wonders since coming in from the Highland League. He's turned Elgin from being pretty much where we were 2 years ago, bottom 2 or 3, consistently worrying about what's happening behind us, to pretty much consistently being at least mid to top half of the table. They're never easy up there. They get a decent crowd for League Two. They've got Dingwall, who always seems to, I was going to say causes problems, but either causes problems or gets sent off. He's always involved. It's always interesting to see what he's doing. So yeah, in spite of the fact trips to Elgin have been difficult in recent years, almost as difficult as Forfar, it's actually quite an enjoyable away day. It's just a shame for both sets of fans, depending on where the fixture is, that it takes such a hell of a long time to get there. It will be a tough one, and it will be a test to our current form. But hey, you could have said the same about Tuesday night.
A draw between the two sides at Stair Park, Brian. That was pretty much the beginning of the run that we've been on, as we touched on there. 2 defeats in 15 games. Be fair to say we're in a better place now than that meeting at Stair Park?
Yeah, I think at Stair Park it was 2 out of form teams coming. I don't think Elgin were the greatest of form either. But they were probably unlucky not to win that game. They had quite a lot of chances near the finish up. I think we were kind of hanging on for the 1-1, and we were delighted with the 1-1 at the finish up. But now it's 2 informed teams up at Borough Briggs on Saturday. So I think it'll be a great. I'm sad they're not going to it, but I think it'll be a fantastic game. And obviously a point would be great. 3 points would be absolutely marvellous. But you just want them, to make themselves proud and just, try. I mean, I think results go our way, we could end up, I think, I might be right here, Cammy in 4th place if Forfar don't win and we beat Elgin. So we could end up in 4th place on Saturday night, which is an aim for the players, I'm quite sure. I mean, Stirling and Albion's the first aim for us, try and pass them and then get to the top 4. But I mean, it's 13 points already in this quarter. That's playoff form. If they win 2 out of 3, it's championship form. So I mean, the team's in a great place. And hopefully, we can maintain the standards on Saturday. As Lawrence says, very, very tough game.
Time for another football cliche, George. It's a hard place to go. What are you expecting from the trip to Borough Briggs?
I think the guys have almost covered it. Both informed teams, and both will be looking to win. And I think that's, you could say it'd be great to get a point, but I think one thing we can say about this team is they're going out for 3 every weekend, and we'll be looking to come back down the road, with the bus bouncing, the tunes on. Maybe we carry out from the Tesco or whatever up at Elgin. And yeah, like you say, it is a long way to go, but that's the extra incentive, is that you can have that long journey home with your mates, and hopefully it's not just hopefully it's the players and the fans of Stranraer celebrating on Saturday.
Just to stress before we go any further, other supermarkets are available, of course. Brian, I usually can ask you this in terms of what the team will be. Obviously, there were 6 changes on Tuesday. Do you reckon any of them have they done enough to play their way in, or at the very least are they kind of putting that wee kind of seed into Chris Aitken's mind and thinking that if changes are needed, he knows he can turn to them?
Yeah, you'd think he'd play the same team that played Stirling, although some of these players on Tuesday might have played their way into it, but you've got to think he'll play the same team. We've not heard much about Matty Gillis. Maybe George can tell us the latest on him. He's injured. He was up in the stand on Saturday. But I don't know how far he is to being back. But I would suggest he'll play the same team that played Stirling. But I could be wrong, but I'd strongly suggest, that he'll do that.
I'll come to you then, George, and I'll ask you to edit it out when you tell me that you don't know anything about Matty Gillis. But do you know anything about Matty Gillis?
Not a clue. I told you
right,
he had a knock. Keep it rolling.
Just lastly then, Lawrence, as I say, you're heading up to Borough Briggs. We've said this before, that whether it's Borough Briggs, whether it's Stair Park or anywhere quite literally in between, it feels just now it's not blind faith, it's not blind optimism. You're going thinking that Stranraer can get a result.
Aye, I am not assuming we're going to Borough Briggs on Saturday and we'll win. There's a possibility that we might win, but what I am expecting now and what I'm seeing now is competitiveness from us. We're not going into games where, so if you go back a couple of seasons ago when Kelty were winning League Two, we were going to games at New Central Park thinking we're not going to get anything here today. We're now going to games thinking, aye, we'll give them a game and see where that takes us. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm hoping for a win. I'd settle for a draw now in a tough away fixture, but I think we will actually go into the game and make a battle of it and be competitive.
On that note, thank you everyone for joining us tonight on what has been a
Cameron, you can't stop without asking George how the pies were at Tokyo FC. Sitting with that backdrop there, we've got to find out what's the football culture like at Tokyo, George.
Well, I can exclusively reveal I had beef with rice pre-match, which I can highly recommend. Half-time I had pork tongue skewers. Not so much. Not for me. I'm sure there's some pork tongue in some of the pies around the grounds, but yeah, I won't go there again.
Sounds as if George was sitting at Tokyo FC looking at his half-time fare and said, I'm a cameraman, get me out of here.